that is the biggest mistake, especially for the majority of your audience, to think about taking someone and having them speed too fast down that freeway. I always tell brands that we don't work with, don't get caught for speeding, because you can go too quick and you can actually hurt your brand and yourself and actually hit a wall. Don't get caught for speeding. Go at a pace that's disciplined so you have a strong business that will be around 10, 20, 30 years from now. It's not a race, it's a marathon.
Need a partner who sees the big picture? Forza Management. We're not just property managers, we're strategic partners. Navigating the complex world of commercial real estate can be daunting. That's where Forza Management comes in. Forza Management provides services in the mountain and desert states and covers all types of asset classes, including retail, industrial, and office. Our team of experts delivers exceptional property management services, namely property maintenance, lease administration, and annual CAM reconciliations. When looking at your next property, check out our website at forzacommercial.com. Forza Management, maximizing your investment and minimizing your stress.
Welcome back to the Dirt Dog Pod. We're here today with Andrew Smith, Managing Director and Co-founder of the Savory Fund.
I'm here, finally.
Yeah.
We tried to get this to happen for like 6 months, I think.
I esteem you to be an individual that has a calendar that's kind of full. So it's okay.
I hate that, though. I hate that the calendar like dictates our lives, right? Yeah. It's like, what is going on?
Well, when you're running like 95 restaurant concepts and you have a family and everything else.
Yeah, you try to do them all great and you just realize I'm just surviving.
Yeah, I love that. You have a lot of restaurant concepts. What's the funnest thing you're working on right now?
The funnest thing we're always working on is probably just the next store for each of the brands, because the team gets excited about that. The executive team gets ready for it. The above store leadership team gets ready for it. The marketing team gets ready for it. And then when you actually execute it, it's fun to see how all of those pieces come together and they execute well. And so I think it's always fun just to see the brands grow the next unit. But I got to be honest, I think that the funnest stuff for me is to watch the teams within each of the brands elevate to new levels. So people that were, in the first few stores getting to be a director of, multiple restaurants or a regional or an executive in the company, I'd love to see the promotions nonstop within the brands. That's something that I really, really enjoy.
We had Rob Ertman on, CEO of Bettahs.
Complete stud.
Yeah, amazing.
The guy's amazing.
He was sitting right here and then just happened to tell me how he just decided to start running marathons. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, I still don't understand that one, by the way, just so you know. But I'll tell you what, he looks amazing.
You haven't joined in? You haven't?
No, I can't run. My knees are bad. I don't know. I ran too much when I was younger and playing sports. I don't know. My knees hurt. And all these guys are like nutso about going and doing runs and marathons and stuff. I'm like, you guys have fun. I'll stand on the side and hand you guys protein bars or whatever you do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, everybody needs cheerleaders, right?
Yeah. Everybody needs a cheerleader.
So I thought what maybe a good place to start today would be, there's one that you've taken full cycle, right? So that's kind of gone through the Savory system. So tell us about why Bettahs looked attractive, and then why did you decide to jump in there?
Well, yeah, Bettahs is actually the second one that we went through the full cycle, because Swig was the first. Through the Savory cycle, we've obviously been in the industry a long time because we were in Neater's Bakery and Cafe before and Little Caesars. And then Swig was our first one full cycle, which we sold in 2022. And then just this last year in November, we sold the majority of Bettahs to some partners of ours that, I say partners now, but to a couple other private equity firms. And that was a phenomenal process to go through. But that brand, we saw the end already in mind when we bought into it. Mm-hmm. But, we're introduced to a lot of brands. A lot of brands come to us directly. We'll reach out to brands too, saying, hey, you're pretty interesting. I'd love to chat with you. We don't force anything. We always look for brands where we can kind of just feel like it goes like this, right? Mm-hmm. Like it kind of meshes together nicely. And that was the brand, I think, of all of the brands. They all kind of happened for a good reason. But that was the one where I met with Kimo Mack and Kalani Mack, the two brothers. Mm-hmm. And I think 30 minutes into the meeting, us just talking, getting to know each other, I'm like, I think I kind of want to just hang out with you always and talk to you forever, because they just make you feel like your friends.
So just an instant mesh of energy.
It was just an instant. Yeah, it was an instant mesh of energy. The way that we looked at life, family. When we look at any brand, it's who are you? What are you driven by? Why do you want to grow? And if it's all about money, which money is always going to be one of the things you push for, and it's fine that can be a goal. But if it's the only goal, we typically walk away from those founders, because it's like you're going to be making decisions that are probably not best for the business as a whole, because it takes an army to do this. And so with Chemo and Kalani, they're like, listen, we have people that started with us 10 years ago. They're still with us. We want to see this thing go to where they can continue to grow with the business. I'm like, yes, that's exactly how I'm driven too. So it was just a nice meshing together. But yeah, an hour and a half into that conversation, they're like, yeah, we want to do a deal. I'm like, great. I want to too, just because I think that we see things the same. So it was pretty awesome, because I was already a customer too. I remember building, and you know real estate really well, of course, but the Bountiful store. So North Salt Lake, Woods Cross location. I was building that. I bought that land. I was building that Neater's Bakery and Cafe. And I remember driving up the hill when I would go to check on construction. It was their first store in Bountiful. And I would eat there as a customer, because I'm just like, the food is just so crisp, and it's healthy. It feels healthy, at least. And I just remember being a customer. And so when I was introduced to them, I'm like, oh, I love your brand. I would go there all the time when I was up in Bountiful. And so it's a brand that I was kind of smitten by early on.
Yeah. Interesting. So when you originally entered into your agreement to acquire them, or the majority interest in them, how many stores did they have?
6. They had 6 stores, which is kind of the sweet spot for us. We'd like to see someone have, we've gotten into some stuff that's a little bit smaller for various reasons, but we really like 5 to 15 units.
Why?
Well, there were some studies done, so I kind of look at data. It's data driven, and if you look at data, and it can be data that's drawn from a swath of a lot of different anecdotes. I like to see the data behind the decisions that I make, but it also makes a lot of sense too. If you can have, let's call it 5 to 15 units, you're usually going to be outside of your little nest of your heritage market of your neighborhood, right? You and I start a restaurant. It's our recipes that we got from our grandma or from our mom. That's usually how it starts, or we had this cool idea.
Yeah.
And when you start one, I mean, it's serendipitous if you win, like it works. And then it's even more serendipitous if you go and open number 2 and it works as well. If you can open up 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 in multiple geographies, still within driving distance of your home, that's impressive. And if they're all working, then that means that the customer has voted with their wallet that they like that concept. But if you open 1, 2 and they work, and then stores 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 don't work, there's a problem. It's either a product market fit with the consumer, or maybe they're just not serving the guests the way that they were in their first few and those others. And so we kind of like to see a little bit more data, because we're not venture investors. It's not, hey, I got this idea. I want to do a Hawaiian plate meal lunch. Do you want to invest into me? It's not Savory. Would I do that with someone personally? Well, sure. Like, I think that could go here. Let's give it a try. It's venture, right? For us, since we're growth investors, we look at things where we have actual data that the consumers has voted with their wallet. They like that concept. I don't have to figure that out. Our job to figure out is, now where do you take it? Where do you grow it? And what systems do you put in place so it's actually a scalable brand? And that is a whole different skill set than creating it.
Yeah.
Totally different skill set.
Yeah, no doubt. Before we hit the scalable brand side, why would there be, why did you say a max store, like around 15? Or maybe that's not a hard line max, but why?
It's not a hard line. It's because of the lift that we want to get in the value that we create for our LPs and for the founders. If we go into a brand and it's 30 units or 40 units, there's already going to be a pretty set way of doing things with that founder. And they're going to say, well, no, you don't understand. I have 30 that are working. Why would I change anything? And I just think for founders in general, I'm a founder. I've been a founder of businesses I've created for 26 years. So I understand the founder mentality very, very well. We don't want things to be changed by people that invest.
Yeah.
That's just how we feel. You're going to come in, you're going to touch my baby. Don't tell me how the baby looks. Don't tell me that he's wearing stupid clothes. Like, don't tell me that stuff. So it's really hard, and I get it. But on the flip side of that, now I understand how the founder thinks, but there's also the data that we don't have that, well, what works today at 20 stores or 30 stores probably is not going to work at 60 and 100, because those systems break, and the way you're doing things are not going to expand like you think when you're 1,000 miles away from your stores here. It's going to be different there. So you might have to change up your menu a little bit for the flavor profile in Texas versus here, right? It's just people have a different flavor profile. So if you get too far into it, we feel like it's a little harder to adjust the knobs to get it just right into new markets. It's also, you get people that are pretty, set in their mind as to how things should be.
Mhm.
And that's fine. It's just not for us because we know what the brands look like when they're 50 and 100 units. We just do. So it's not a hard set, but I would say 15 is probably the max. It's also the check size too. So we invested out of $100 million fund, which is our debut fund,
Mhm.
which most debut funds are 25 million or 20 million. We raised 100 for our debut fund, bought 5 brands, did another fund 2 years later for 100 million, bought 6 brands, just launched our third fund last year for 200 million. So now we're going to do 8 to 9 brands in that fund.
Mhm.
But when we raise those funds, we kind of allocate a $5 to $10 million initial check,
Mhm.
and then we allocate another 15 to 20 as follow-on as we grow.
Mhm.
So we're willing to bet a big amount on each of these brands. But if you're putting all of the money out just to acquire a bigger brand, we don't have the gunpowder to also scale it.
Yeah.
So it's also size.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Okay. So we were talking for a minute ago about how we run our brokerage, development, and property management companies out of the office here. So
Which is impressive, by the way. I did not know what you were doing here. So,
yeah. So
I know who you are, but I didn't know what you guys were doing in the office.
So we started our brokerage 7 years ago. And this last year we sat down and I said, as we sat down as an operational team, and I said, okay, let's rethink everything here. We now have 27 agents here. When we originally started, there were like 5, right? So things that we were doing when we had 5 agents are likely going to be different than with 27 agents, right?
Of course.
Subscriptions, the way we run business, procedures, etc. So what happens? So I'm the Mack brothers. I've partnered with you. I've sold a chunk of my company to Savory. What happens next?
Yeah. So first and foremost, there's a lot of brands that are out there that are raising money, and in their mind, they're, I've done this for 10 years. I've taken some money from the business because it's successful, but it's not been life-changing money. And in my mind, as a founder, there's investors that have come to me and said, here's a check. They put it on the balance sheet or into the company. I dilute a bunch, and now I have a new partner telling me what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very uncomfortable setting for a founder.
Sure.
Although you have now new gunpowder, you can grow the business, and we all understand too. Hopefully, everybody understands the law of the pie, right? Like you sell a piece of the pie, but then the pie gets bigger, and everybody says, "What the smaller percentage of a bigger pie?" But you don't feel that way, especially when you haven't taken any money off the table. Because of that, I really orchestrated Savory around what I wanted as a founder, and it's really worked with the other founders that we've partnered with, and the future founders that we're looking to partner with right now. And that is, I'll buy my seat at the table. And when I buy in, your option, but I would encourage you to take as much of that off the table as you can. So if you've been doing this, Chris, for 10 years, and I come to you and say, here's $8 million, you can take whatever that amount you want. And then we have follow-on capital for growth. And you take $7 million off the table, you're going to breathe differently. You're going to think differently. You're going to be appreciative of the fact that now I'm your partner and I bought my seat at the table to now work together on that next chapter. So for us, it's exciting to see founders monetize some of their asset, not have all their eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
And then the growth is almost like a new journey for them. They're like, we've created something that works. Now that next journey is exciting because we don't know what it's like and we've never done it before.
I'm sure the upfront growth has got to be so stressful. And
oh my gosh, I've done it.
Yeah, sure.
I did it with Neaters. I was like store 1 and then store 2. And I was like, I didn't know anything. And I came from the tech industry, which is wild because it's totally different.
Yeah. I
didn't know what I was doing. And one of the reasons I created Savory is because of that. It's like, I've been there. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, Chris. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I better hire a team for this and that and the other. The difference was I had the wherewithal to hire the team around me. Not many people have that, if any. When you're a founder and you have a business making $1 million in EBITDA, $2 million in EBITDA, you have a good life, but you're not going to go spend $5 million on building the entire team that you need, or 10, to just have the team.
I was going to say, I think most of them have probably invested everything they've got into the concept.
Almost every one of them have.
And so you've got $1 million of EBITDA, meaning you're taking home what, $100,000 to $125,000.
Yeah, because you have taxes and you have other costs and you're rolling it into growth. Yeah, they're not making millions a year, but the business makes $1 million or $2 million.
So for each additional strategic hire that you put out there, you have got to believe that it's getting bigger.
Believe it. Like, they're going to make my business better. And a lot of people don't have that trust or faith in that. What they do is they'll hire them so they can have a little bit more freedom.
Yes.
Because they own the business, right, Chris? So you're just like, well, I want more freedom. So what do? I got to hire Chris to come do some of my job so I have some freedom. It's not to expand the business. It's for freedom.
Yeah. That's interesting. So I would imagine that kind of a hire is probably a different hire than you would get if you were doing it to leverage it up. right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So really, as they turn to Savory, the idea is that Savory becomes kind of an actuator for them, puts the business, because now you can take a business approach to it is, hey, look, each time we open a store, it's kind of extra turn. You know, we know over Y years, we're going to open Z amount of stores.
Yeah.
That's going to project this kind of revenue.
Yeah. And for us, it used to be where everybody's like, well, how many rooftops are you going to add? Because, you know, we buy into a business that has 5 to 15 rooftops. Everybody thinks in this industry that all value is created by more rooftops. It's a large portion of the equation, but it's not the only part of the equation. I remember when we bought this little brand called Swig, which I think is funny that people still are like, wait a second, soda? I mean, does that work outside of Utah? And by the way, everybody that's listening, it's working about 40% better outside of Utah than in Utah.
That is wild. Truly.
It's wild,
yes.
Right? With any of these brands that we get involved in, they have the first node of stores. Going 500 miles away to open up a new market, there's going to be systems, process, and people that you have to put in place that they just don't know. They don't understand. They don't know about. And to be able to hire all of that team too is extremely expensive. So when Savory comes and buys in, we have a team of 75 individuals in our office. It's kind of a big team, but it's needed and it's necessary to say, this brand needs these resources right now, but it doesn't need these other resources yet. But as it gets a little bigger, it will use those other resources. But it does take the right people, process, and systems to get it from the 10 or 15 units to 50 or 100 units. It just does, but they just don't have the money to pay for that yet. So using a shared services model that we've done, it literally, like I like the word that you use, it actuates. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It actuates the ability for them to grow without having to have all of that team above store and on their P&L day one.
So a team of 75 is no joke.
It's no joke.
That's a lot of people. So what do 75 people, what are they working on?
Everything soup to nuts. So when I was growing our brands as an operator myself with my wife, which by the way, my wife was the actual founder of it. I was in tech and then I sold my tech company and then joined her. I actually called her and said, hey, I'd love to come join you. And she's like, seriously? I'm like,
and she was running?
She was running our first Kneaders Bakery and Cafe.
And where was that?
In Lehigh.
Okay.
Right in front of that Smith's.
Yeah, sure.
And so she's like, seriously? I'm like, yeah. So
great location. It's got to be a good
phenomenal location. Yeah. I mean, it was always one of our best, to be honest. And we kind of did it out of necessity too. There was no food up there. And I remember driving past that going down to Lehigh, Thanksgiving Point, and the signs came up and the Smiths was being built and said, buy a parcel. And she was like, I want to do a restaurant. I'm like, okay. So I remember calling, I was like, I'll take a parcel, $1 million. And then of course the GFC happened. So the Great Financial Crash happened. So I don't think that was worth $1 million.
No. Yeah, no.
But we built our first building and she opened it and it was a thriving success minute one. And I was like, holy cow, that is actually really impressive how cash flow positive it was, how much fun she was having. I was in the middle of the GFC and the world was ending and the market was crashing and banks were failing. And I'm like, this is not fair. Like I'm supposed to be like the business guy of the world.
Okay, so let's set aside the 75 people in the office. Let's dive back into the early days. This is entertaining. So how did she zero in on Kneaders? Why Kneaders?
Because she enjoyed going there because it was comfort food. I mean, it was fresh baked comfort food.
And she experienced it somewhere else.
She'd gone to some of the Kneaders in the other locations, and I had too, and I liked it. The one thing that was interesting at the time, though, is that there was this word being thrown around. And you have to understand the timing. This is 1997 that we were talking about this, or 2007. Sorry, 2007. And there's this whole word or phrase of fast casual, and it's like, oh, what's fast casual? Well, it's not fast food, and it's not casual dining. It's kind of in between. I'm like, there's something there, and they were kind of fitting that. Plus, a bakery and cafe with a drive-through hadn't really been done. Right. Panera was really growing and scaling, and people were eating that, across the country, but it was growing fast. And so I'm like, there's something there. So Shauna's like, yeah, I want to do one of those. I'm like, great. I'll buy you a piece of land. We'll get going. So I bought the land. We built a 4,200 square foot building, which is big nowadays. Yeah. 4,200 square foot building, 1 acre parcel, 42 stalls, drive through. I mean, I didn't know that you didn't have to do that. I'd never done it.
Did she have any restaurant experience?
Well, if she was sitting here, she would say, well, I was a sandwich artist in high school. So she was, and she always says that. And she's from the South. She's from Alabama. I'm from Chicago. And she says that hospitality was born in her blood, and it is. It's just kind of part of Southerners. They just want to have you come and break bread with them. So it was in her blood anyway. But originally, I have to tell you, though, when she said, I want to do a restaurant, in my mind, I was like, that is the stupidest idea. Like, why would you ever open? They all fail. You can't make money. What? All the fallacies were in my head, just like everybody else. I love to kill fallacies.
Yes.
When they say, well, isn't it so hard? I'm like, as opposed to what? Because I was in the tech industry during the .com and during the GFC. I'll tell you right now, that's hard because you don't have profit. You're burning cash left and right. You have to raise more money to survive.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to me people think that that's not as risky as running a restaurant that is actually profitable, asset backed, and it's reoccurring. People have to do it every single day.
Well, I think there's a key note in there also is that you owned your first location.
Yeah, that's right.
You can screw up a lot more. I feel
When you
like.
own it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, when you own it, that's right.
It's
But
more capital intensive.
It is more capital intensive. And I think that the world has changed before where I was like, I'll put down money and I'll get a bank loan because that's what you do to leverage your cash. And I mean, it was a lot easier than it is nowadays. But you can still do it today, but it's just a little bit different. But I remember thinking that though, Chris. But what my response was to Shauna was, I think it's a great idea. And I think you should totally do it. And I would be so happy to support you. But in my mind, I'm like, such a dumb idea.
Yeah.
But I remember then we bought it, built the building. And in 2008, September, markets crashing, WAMU's failing. Like you have Lehman Brothers failing. Like everyone's failing. My life is on fire. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are we doing opening a restaurant?
Yeah.
And we opened it in October of 2008. And I'm like, we're going to fail.
Yeah.
I'm having emergency board meetings every week trying to figure out which way is up in the markets. Mm-hmm. And we open up and it is slammed. And I'm like, how is that possible?
Just right out of the gate.
Right out the gate.
Yeah.
People were lining up and I'm like, one thing that I really realized about that industry at that moment, and it is still true to this day, is that missiles can be flying, markets can be crashing, banks can be failing. Mm-hmm. You and I are still going to go eat today somewhere.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what's going on in the world. And I didn't realize that because in tech that I was in for 11 years, the market crashes, your business suffers. Valuations suffer, getting access to capital suffers, everything suffers. You're much more correlated in those other industries than food and beverage. So I was like, I'm interested now. But I also remember her getting her first P&L. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And she's like, that's called profit, Andrew. I'm like, I didn't even know they could make money.
There you go.
And so I was intrigued. The following year in 2009, we ended up selling our business. We stabilized the business, the market stabilized a little bit. We were in a recession. We all remember that. Mm-hmm. And I just remember saying, hey, Shauna, I think I want to join you. She's like, great, come on in. Let's do this. And I remember going in and she's like, you can start on the dish bit. I'm like, uh-huh. She's trying to break me.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, it almost broke me. I remember doing that. I'm going, what did I just do with my life? Why did I commit to doing this? But you know what? I committed to it. I'm like, we're going to do this together. So I stuck it through. And I tell you what, there was not one thing in that restaurant I did not do. I did everything in that restaurant. And we did it for several years together. But we had our life in food and beverage was really a series of moonshots. It's like we have one, it's doing really well, making good cash. Let's do two. So we got rights to do two. And then I was like, let's do 5 of them. We did 5. So it was kind of like that. It was like this engine that just kind of went. Going back to your original question of like, you have this team, it's like no joke.
Yeah.
One thing I realized, in my tech industry background is that you really do have to build the team to build, to work on the business, right? I couldn't do it all. I couldn't be the coder. I couldn't be the marketer. I couldn't be the sales guy. I couldn't be the finance team. I couldn't do it all. And so as we were going, I'm like, I can't do all of this. I have to work on the business too. And I'm not the expert at all of the other things. So I went and started hiring people that were experts in this industry to work on my business with me so we could grow and scale it and not me just be stuck in making pastries every day, right? Mm-hmm. So we had the wherewithal to do it. So we put the team together and we continued to hire faster than we had cash flow to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference, is that if you have the wherewithal, it's a little easier. It's still risky because you're funneling it all out of your pocket. But we built the team. And what we realized as we fast forward is that brands that were coming to us, like Swig or even the Bettahs brothers, the Max, is they came and they said, we need what you have and that you've created over the last 13, 14, 15 years, because we don't have that team and we don't know how to do it anyway. That's where the magic has been with Savory, with these brands, is that I did it out of necessity. Others need it. I just don't know if they're going to do it. That's where our opportunity is for us.
It is interesting. So after you put the time and effort, after you got the team, you got the best marketing people, the best ops people, best hiring people. Sure. I mean, why not scale it, right? That's really what you're doing. You're offering that as a scaling service.
It's a scale. People say it's an incubator. And I'm like, it's not really an incubator, because an incubator is something that you do with startups, right? You incubate an idea. But we truly are an incubator of these great emerging elite brands, is what we call them. Emerging elite brand, in my mind, is not just something that's cool, that's kind of up and coming. It's we've been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We've proven that we have staying power. It's not a fad because we've gone through cycles enough to say it's not a fad. A fad's usually 2 to 3 years or 4.
Yeah.
We're looking at brands that have been around 6 to 15 years, 7 to 15 years. So it's not a fad, clearly. So you get through that whole cycle, and then it's like, okay, now these things are ready for growth, and they're elite because they have good store level economics. They've got good profit. They got good team. They got good systems at that size. Now, how do you take all of those winning metrics, leverage those so that you can actually scale it now outside of your nest into new geographies, which is incredibly hard. You know that just like I do. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's not any easier for us. We just have done it a lot. And I would say to anybody too that's a tenant going into a new market, pulling the trigger on your first one, it takes a lot of courage. And if you don't have courage, you'll never grow because it takes some courage. And is there a lot of risk around it? Tremendous amount of risk. Can you hit it just right though? Absolutely. And when you do, it's incredible because now your brand has a lot of legs because you have new ponds that you can go and grow in.
So this is the Dirt Dog Pod, right? And
I love the name, by the way.
right, implying that, it's a lot of windshield time. It's a lot of finding that next great location. I mean, you're a person who's opened hundreds of
locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're on that corner and you're sitting at that site and, your local ops team or broker, somebody's told you, hey, this is the spot we're going to. What do you think? What is in your head and what are you looking at? How do you determine if that's the right fit?
So I will say that of the hundreds and hundreds of locations, we've closed down a handful, meaning on 2 hands. So we've actually had a pretty good batting average, I guess you would say.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, sure.
Now, does that mean that every single one opens killer? No. But when you have faith in a site, when I say faith, just that when you feel really good about it, and you're like, it's going to come, or it's a little green, because there's sites that you've probably built too, Chris, for clients. And it's like, so it's a little green, but all those homes are coming and this business is coming. So you lean in some of them, and some of them I realize that we've leaned into. But ones where you go into, I remember standing on a corner in Scottsdale, Arizona, on a site, and I look at the geographics, the demographics, the psychographics. I look at spend, discretionary spend, how many times people eat out of their house. I look at grocery spend. I look at other competitors that are in the market, the types of restaurants. So am I next to, a bunch of fine dining? Am I next to a bunch of fast casual? If I'm a fast casual and I have 70 other fast casuals around me, it's probably not a great spot for me to just go in as a new entrant and say, I'm going to be better than all these other 70.
Yeah.
Those are things I look at, and I think about all of them. But I look at that on paper a lot of times. But we don't make a decision on real estate unless we fly there and stand on the dirt.
Yeah.
You have to, right?
Yes.
You've done it too.
Yeah.
You're probably more of a pro at this than I am. But you have to stand there and you have to watch and feel the vibe of that spot for a while. I have sat in a location in my car watching the flow of people for 7 or 8 hours before.
Traffic flow.
I just want to see where people are going and what are they getting out of the car to do, and how busy is the grocery store. They say, oh, it's doing 500 a week or $1 million a week or whatever. I'm like, I want to see it.
Yeah.
And then it's also, I'm here on Wednesday. I want to come here on a Saturday. Like, is it that way on Saturday, or is it way busier on Saturday, like they say? So you have to go there and you have to feel it to make sure that the stuff that you're seeing on paper is actually happening when you're there. But it's crazy how many times you'll go and you'll show up and you'll look around and you go, hold on a second. This is not what I saw on Google Earth. It's not what I saw on paper. And I don't care what the paper says. I'm not doing this site. You've done it before too, right?
Yeah.
Like plenty of times where you're like, this is different than what I thought.
I keep reading about how AI is going to replace everything.
There's not a chance.
Yeah, I think AI can help with a lot of the psychographics and demographics, to your point. But
we'll place our AI. It's been an incredible tool.
Yep.
It's still just a tool.
Yep.
It does not make the decision for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of human nature that goes into it.
But I will say this, Chris, and you probably have a lot of experience with this. It does take someone, though, in the room or at the table to make the decision that you're going to take the risk. And I will say that for us at Savory, we are willing to take that risk by making the decision, where a lot of founders would be like, I don't know if I can do this. This is scary. It's like, I know it's scary. So I think that we also bring a little bit of that unlock to having the courage to do it, because you're not alone. If you're alone and all of your eggs are in the basket, it's really hard to go put your basket on a new piece of dirt and say, I'm going to risk it all on that piece of dirt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's super hard.
What a unique perspective that you probably can bring to the table, where you're selecting sites, not only for yourself and your concepts, but the other concepts that you've incubated, right, into the Savory system. And you're looking across platforms, right? You've got you have fast casual, you have sit down fine dining,
QSR, we have casual. Yeah, we have it all.
pizza.
Pizza, the best pizza on the planet.
That's it. Amazing.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I mean, that's the whole point of having a portfolio. You have some diversity in QSR, fast casual, casual. We don't ever really do fine dining. Like I would say not $100 PPA. Like that's way too high. People go there once every 6 months or once a year if inflation really hits. We like the casual dining, like Sicilian Butcher down in Scottsdale. It's an unbelievable concept. We have them down in Texas as well. We're building 3. We're going into Nashville with that as well. And that business is incredible. You can go have that sit down, really nice date night celebration experience, but you're $35, $40 per person for an unbelievable experience. Those are the casual dinings that we like because you'll go to that once a month potentially, where others, Ruth, Chris, you and I are not going to
Right.
once a month.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you do, Chris.
Yeah, for sure.
But maybe a lot of the listeners don't. So.
As my listeners well know, I eat at In-N-Out every day of the week.
You know what? That's a good diet too. Just so you know, I could do that too every day.
That's my jam. That is my jam.
It looks like when you pass an In-N-Out, it's everyone's jam.
Yeah, I was going to say, people have figured it out,
Good grief, that place.
Well, the value proposition's wild too. You can still eat at like $10, right?
It's just crazy. And I was in California just a week ago, meeting with a few founders of brands that are incredible. But I remember going by In-N-Out because I like to go to the place where people are from. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when you go to an In-N-Out in California, it's just something about it in California. But they are just so busy, jamming all the time.
Yeah.
And you order in California, it's like that will be $10.65 for your whole meal. You're like, how in the world?
I have no idea how.
Just makes zero sense. But then you look around, you're like, it's based on volume. And the founder, the heiress that took over, she's doing an incredible job. She's been pushed several times. We should raise our prices. We should raise. She's like, no, we're not going to raise our prices, even through the inflationary time. I respect the hell out of her because she said, no, this is who we are. This is what we provide to our customers, which is a place that they can get a good meal for a good price. And she's not moving off of it. I'm like, that's so badass. Is it not badass?
It's honestly amazing.
It's amazing.
Well, and the people, we just opened that South Salt Lake location that we did with them. And every single team member I met, top to bottom, every role in the company is just like one of the best people I've ever met. And it's like, how long you been with the company? 37 years. 22 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Like
their tenures nuts.
In our world, right? People bounce every 3 to 5 years, it feels like. And so, you're like, well, you must be doing something right to keep people there.
Well, and when you say that too, I kind of look at the Savory team. I think that one of the superpowers we have is that whether we're a family that always gets along or not is beside the point, because I think that productive tension is good in any leadership team. But from our director level VP, C-suite, and then our firm, we're 13 years average tenure.
Yeah.
Helps a lot.
For sure. Productive tension. I like that.
Yeah.
So I don't, my wife is a pretty intense personality, and I'm not sure how you and your wife are. I've been trying to envision, and as you were coming here today, one of the things that I really thought would be kind of entertaining to talk through is just you work with your wife.
Yeah, I do. I love it.
And it's very interesting. And so like, I find it like the way we divide things in our lives, like she handles all things, domestic and household.
Yeah.
And so like, I'll have an opinion, but the moment she has a strong opinion, I just back down. And that's like how it works. And then on the work side of things, she'll have
good man, by the way, good man. Let her be the CEO of home.
Right. And then on the work side, I'll have an opinion. She'll have an opinion. And then as soon as she has an opinion, I also back down.
Yeah.
Because I also find that she's still just in charge.
Yeah.
And, she usually has.
At least we know our place.
That's right. She usually has the right opinion too, by the way. I just want to point out. So, I mean, how is that? How is it to work with your wife?
I will say this first and foremost. I feel like, and this is not a dig on any of us as men, I would just say some of the greatest minds in business are women. I just have found that they think things out differently. I think that they view things differently. They're emotionally charged about certain things that men are not. That gives you a good counterbalance to your decision making. More than half of our executive team at Savory are women. It's not because we tried to do that. It's because naturally they have been the best decisions for those senior leadership positions. We have a brand, Swig, that is 85% women naturally, even more than that percentage-wise, above store leadership, women.
Swig is 85% female?
Female.
Wow.
And leadership the same, and it was founded by a woman. Our company was founded by a woman. It was Shauna. She founded the company. So I just think that they think differently. And I think you would agree with your wife. It's like, I want your opinion because the way you think and view things could be a good counterpoint for what I'm thinking. And that's why you lean on them. So that's the first thing I think just about female. I think that this whole thing where people are like, well, you got to hire women just so you look good. I'm like, you should hire women because they're really good at the way they think through things.
Yeah, hire the right person.
Hire the right person. Doesn't
Right.
matter what sex they are. But I have found that women give you a really good counterbalance just in business. And so it's been very easy for me, even in tech to this, you just have them around you. It's really, really good. That's number one. Number two, when Shauna came to me and said, I feel like I have more to give than just be a domestic partner here. I said, great. And I remember that conversation was one of those, okay, this is an inflection point for our relationship, for our marriage, and for our family. And that is, she feels like she has more to give. Who am I to say I'm going to get in the way of that? And so I knew I had to get behind that. And when I say I knew I had to, I knew I should. And so when I got behind her and I said, let's do this, and she got into business, was it hard for her? Yeah. Was it tiring? Yes. We had a nanny and we had long days and hard days, but I still saw the spark in her. Was like, she's meant for business and she's meant for something greater than just being at home. That's not for every single woman. And a lot of women that stay at home, like my mother did, growing up, she was a piano teacher, but she stayed at home with us as kids. I respect the hell out of that too, because that's hard too. But I
would contend it's probably harder.
I think I actually think it is harder.
The problems you're dealing with there are
way harder than business.
They don't end at 5 or 6 or whatever p.m.
They do not. They keep going. And I would say that being a mother also has transcended to being a good business person too, because they think things through like that. It's like you're always dealing with triage every day at home. Okay, where's the bleeders? What do I have to do to solve? You're coordinating logistics. I mean, you're doing all those things. You're doing that in the business world too. And so with Shauna, it was you're doing this, and then I joined her. And so there's always been this respect of, I came after you started this. I'm here to be your partner. But the thing that we had to establish early on is, what do you love to do, Shauna? And what are you going to do every day? And then what am I good at? And what am I going to do every day that I enjoy? And so we had to come up with kind of our swim lanes of, you do this and I do this. And what we've been really, really good at over the years is determining when we do this, where we're swimming between the buoys. And it's like, oop, that didn't work. Like, we shouldn't do that again. Just stay in your lane. Now, does that mean that I don't say, hey, Shauna, I think that you should do this breaststroke instead of this? I mean, do I tell her things where I have an opinion? Of course. And does she tell me? Of course. But she trumps on this and I trump on this. Yeah. And because of that, Chris, it works. And I tell people all the time too, is who better to be in partnership with than your partner in life, where you absolutely trust them to the end of the earth. But also that at the night you can go home and you can also make out. So it's pretty good.
Wouldn't advise that if you weren't.
If you're not married, don't do that, because it's probably going to be a problem.
Not advisable from a Savory perspective or other. Again, you've opened so many stores. What's the wildest store opening you've ever opened?
I would say not even in volume. Can I just tell you the experience? So volume wise, we've opened up stores that do $300,000 in a week, right? But I remember we had a Kneaders Bakery and Cafe in City Creek. And City Creek was this brand new $2 billion mall that had been built in Salt Lake, and everything was opening at the same time, same weekend.
Completed during COVID.
Yeah. And we had this shop that was not a drive-through. It was our only internal store that we'd ever done, because all the others are freestanding drive-throughs. And we had to open up that weekend. So we jammed to get that thing open in the first place. It was hard to get product in there. It was hard to hire. It was just a tough time. And I remember being in there with Shauna and our team. Our whole office was in there helping. But on an average week for a Kneaders, you're doing anywhere from $45,000 a week to $65,000 a week, right? Because they're $2.1 to $2.4 million AUV stores. And when we went into City Creek, we're like, we're probably going to do 60, 65. We're probably going to do that. And you're built for that, right? Because you're doing scratch bakery items in the back. And we opened up and we got kicked in the teeth so hard that our days were like 25,000, to where at the end of that first week, I think we did $135,000. I mean, that's double plus of what we're used to at the max.
In a drive-through.
In a non-drive-through.
Yeah, right, correct.
Oh, yeah, in a drive-through, 65, right. Where a lot of that can go and you don't feel that inside the store.
Right.
I'm telling you what, Chris, there was a night that I was going home after an 18, 19-hour day, because we were in there saying, we can't let our employees just die. We have to be there to help them. But we were there for a week straight every day for 18, 19 hours. Yeah. And I'm not ashamed to say, Chris, I was driving and I was like, I think want to cry because I'm so tired. I'm like, why did we open up there? I don't even want the business.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to shut the doors because it was so painful.
Meanwhile, the Pain is a tremendously successful restaurant.
Yeah, that's.
What
I mean,
an entertainment.
you sound like an idiot complaining about that, but at the end of the day, you're like, do I really want this pain? But it was fun. Now I look back and with some fondness and say that was fun. We figured it out. We galvanized. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Let's spend just a minute talking about, what is Savory today? How many restaurants do you guys own today?
So it's about 260, and we're adding about 70 this year.
Okay, and then so is that spread across how many chains?
10 different brands.
10 different brands.
And we have target this year to add 3 more brands.
3 net new brands.
Net new brands.
Okay. How do you evaluate a new brand?
Yeah, so it comes in 2 different formats. One, inbound. People that know Savory now, they know our brands. Agents know who we are too because they see our brands popping up in their markets, and then they find out who owns them. And so then they, of course, reach out and say, hey, I have a brand that's growing in my market. You should talk to them. So a lot of people come through agents, to be honest, which we really like the agent network, the tenant rep network, because they know the brands really, really well.
Yes.
But a lot of inbound. It used to be right when we started, we were in the industry for 10 years as 4 Foods Group, which is a brand that, we had Shauna and I with our team. And then we sold off all of our Caesars and Neaters. And then we started Savory as a private equity fund so that we would have that funding mechanism, but it's the same team. Mm-hmm. So the team's been intact for that entire time. And so we used to have to go outbound about 90% of it to say, hey, Chris, this is who we are. And like, oh yeah, we remember those brands, but they didn't know who Savory was. That switched over about 2.5 years, 3 years in to where now it's about 95% inbound, which has been nice because we see a lot more without having to really work hard for it, which has been helpful for us because we can see what's going on in the market. So we see about 350 brands a year. 350 at a minimum.
And you're going to add 3 this year.
Yeah, we're pretty selective. Yeah.
I was going to say that's not, you're really narrowing it down.
No. Yeah. This week alone, I think we've had 4 new inbounds.
Wow.
Just this week that were really impressive. Others that just reach out to you that we don't engage with yet just because we know what the segment is. And it's a segment that we're not focused on. Mm-hmm. So for us, lots of inbound, but we do look for when they're coming in, we're looking for a specific flavor profile or a segment first. So we kind of zero in on, we believe that this segment right now, based on the data that we're looking at, is hot. We feel like there's not a clear leader, or we figure that there's a leader out there, but there's room for a really solid number 2 position because the industry is not full of just ones, right? It's not just Cava. There's a lot of other Mediterranean others amazing, even though what I think Brett Schuleman and Cava has done is amazing and probably untouchable. Same thing as Chipotle. It's like that's kind of untouchable now for anybody, but is there other Mexican concepts that can thrive? Of course. Yes. So we're just looking at something that's not exactly like a Cava, but maybe something a little bit off that offers something differently in a different format that people are responding to. So we're looking for that, not necessarily Mediterranean. I'm just saying that's what we're looking for, something that's a little bit different than the leader. It's pretty obvious, though, just so you know, when you look at the sea of, let's just call it dirty soda, providers.
Sure.
The clear leader was Swig because they created it.
Yes.
They created it. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. They created it 15 years ago by Nicole Tanner. And to go and talk to her and see that you're the clear leader, you're the one that has the culture, the passion, the idea of it. Well, those are the people we want to talk to. Or if you go into the burger category, the burger category is full. We all have our burger place we go to. But are there distinct differences with some of these new and innovative concepts that are coming out of the ground that people are responding to that's not in and out, because that will always be a clear leader on a good value proposition? Can you step it up one notch, give it to everybody in a little bit of a different format, and do something with the burger to make it like, I would eat an In-N-Out burger with you every day, but I'd also go over here to this other place and try this once a week probably, or once every 2 weeks. Yeah, you would. And those are the ones that we're betting on.
It sounds so abstract as you describe that process. Is it as simple as also just like, for example, you still have a holding an R&R barbecue, right?
We do.
Where
not for long.
If another barbecue is coming through, it may not be the best fit for you because you're currently operating a barbecue concept.
Yeah, it's a good question because, we're not going to hold it long enough to actually be in every single one of the United States, right? So we think geography is a big component too, to
So if
kind of
you-
build a moat around it.
So if you picked up a Carolinas barbecue
Would
while
be
you're
fine.
doing a kind of
They're never going to overlap.
mountain and west,
Mhm.
desert states, R&R.
Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
We call it Rocky Mountain barbecue, but yeah, it would never overlap. And there would be some overhang from what we're contracting and benefiting R&R with
Mhm.
to potentially that new brand that we would buy. So we would look at it again, or still, even though we would have something that's in the portfolio. So if we have burgers down in Miami, like Pincho, would we look at a burger concept elsewhere in the United States? Potentially, but it's got to just be a leader in that category, in that jurisdiction. And then we have to think, well, if we're here, where are we going to grow it? Well, we would probably grow it here. So we kind of do a white space analysis for growth with real estate and say, we're going to these 3 or 4 states.
Yeah.
And then we reach out to our network and say, hey, Chris, we're going here. What do you think about that market for this concept? You're usually the one that knows better that market to say, I wouldn't do that because you have this player, and this player that just came in and they're not doing well.
Mhm.
It's like, well, then we're not going to go there. So
Sure.
we come up with our strategy book on how we're going to scale them before we buy them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was interesting you mentioned the tenant rep broker side. It always blows me away how much information sits in the head of a good tenant rep broker.
Oh, for sure.
They know everything.
They know everything.
Yeah.
But can I tell you one thing that everybody that's listening should remove from their vocabulary? Can I tell you that?
Yeah.
Because it will help.
Sure.
Because we as the tenants, we all talk about it behind the scenes and go, why
Yeah.
do they always say that? We're in a car. And my VP of real estate that's been working with me forever, Brad Giles, we'll be driving in a car with our agent to go stand on the dirt, right, somewhere. And we'll pass something and we'll say, how is that Chipotle doing? Or how's that Shake Shack doing right there? Oh, they're killing it. It's the number 1 store.
Yeah. Drives me crazy.
If you say that, guess what? None of us believe it.
All right.
Because the day before I was in a different city and that agent told me that one was number 1 and killing it. So doing that doesn't help us.
No, you got to convert it to, I spoke to the manager. There's 32 stores in the DMA. Of the 32 stores, last year, this was the top of 32.
That would be helpful.
That's a quantified
So
answer.
give me
Sure.
some
Yes.
quantifiable data. If you say, talk to the manager, they're doing 55 a week. It's
Right.
like, okay, that's really good. And their sales are up or their sales are flat or what, that's very valuable. But when you say they kill it, it's number 1 in the whole market, it's like, stop. We don't believe it.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to help here. That's why I'm saying,
No.
please don't say that. We don't listen to that anyway.
No, it's so good. Part of dirt dogging for me is I also sit in a car with a broker on a regular basis.
And you hear it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's caused me to implement some new suggestions here to a lot of our agents. They're all agents here. They're all independent flowers. So they would tell you they're all the boss. So
Yeah, sure.
You kind of just give a suggestion and you kind of hope everybody listens.
Yeah, you hope. But I will tell you that one right there is universal. We
Yes.
all believe as the people that are dirt dogging that it doesn't work for us.
You know what else I found is kind of interesting? It is really hard to I used to think when I was doing tenant rep brokerage that I had to fill all white noise. Like there was never allowable that there would be a silence in the car.
Yeah, no. Don't talk to me. I'm thinking.
Exactly.
I'm actually trying to take it in.
Right. Until I started touring sites and I was like, I can't sit in a car in one city and look at 27 sites, get on a plane, go to the next city and think about 22 more sites, get on a plane, go to the next city, look at 17 more.
That's right.
I need some minutes to process.
You have to process a lot. And also we're looking around at what they're driving us around. Like I'm looking at everything.
Right.
If you're talking, I can't even process any of it. So that is such a great point, Chris. And that is silence is a good thing occasionally.
Turn on a little background music.
Yeah.
Let's
Turn some Enya on so we can actually.
Whatever it is.
I'm just
Whatever
kidding.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right. So Savory has got some wonderful flags. You're looking at adding 3 more in this year, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You're on Fund 3.
We're on Fund 3. We're still raising on Fund 3 right now.
Still raising.
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is Savory headed from here?
Yeah. So I think that the question I get from a lot of my LPs is there going to be another brand? Is there like another opportunity for another brand to grow? And I'm like, seriously?
Like we've only demonstrated this for
I mean, this market, when I got involved, I think was a $600 billion TAM. So a total addressable market size. That's huge, right? It's 1.1 trillion today. It's doubled since I've been in this industry. And the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate is about 4.5 to 6%. Nobody can really tell exactly what it is, but it's 4.5 to 6%. That's a massive TAM, and that's growing super consistently, right? So for me, I think, is Savory something that I created with Shauna, but Shauna had started our previous business. We've done this together. Is this something that we just go until we can't find any more brands and we shut it down after that last brand that we bought, grows and sold? And it's just not possible. This is the most persistent and perpetual opportunity industry that I've seen. Mm-hmm. And that's coming from the tech industry. There's always some new tech coming out and people are like, is there more tech you can build? It's like, there's new tech being created every minute of every day that none of us know about yet, mm-hmm. that we're going to know about it soon. It's the same thing in this industry. It's just too big of a damn industry that it's going to shift, pivot, and everything else. So you're going to have the dilapidated brands that have been around for 50, 60, 70 years, not reinvented themselves. People are now taking their wallet share and going to the emerging elite brands or the other brands that have adapted and pivoted. Those are going to fall to the wayside and they're going to go out of business. And that's the Darwinian shakeout that every market goes through. And it's a good one to go through.
Yeah.
Can't remember the last times I went to a Perkins. Like, I just can't remember. I went when I was a little boy, but mm-hmm. those slowly going out, or if they're in a region doing okay, fine. But most of the time, those brands will die off. Well, where are those dollars going? The dollars are going to the new stuff coming up, and we know that the emerging brands are getting a lot of that wallet share, or the Kavas or the Chipotles, where people know them, they trust them, and they're doing it right. So for us, my long answer, trying to be cut down to 2 sentences, is we're building our succession plan now, Shauna and I, on having Savory be around for Fund 4, 5, 10, 15, well beyond our years. Because I think that there's always going to be opportunity for the next exciting brands. And there will always be that flywheel of certain ones dying off that didn't do it right or making the wrong decisions as they went. It's really sad to watch for me. Great brands die because they over-levered themselves. They did not focus on the customer that's actually making their jobs possible. Mm-hmm. Instead, they're just talking about growth at all costs. And I will just say that is the biggest mistake, especially for the majority of your audience, to think about taking someone and having them speed too fast down that freeway. I always tell brands that we don't work with, don't get caught for speeding, because you can go too quick and you can actually hurt your brand and yourself and actually hit a wall. Don't get caught for speeding. Go at a pace that's disciplined so you have a strong business that will be around 10, 20, 30 years from now. It's not a race, it's a marathon.
What are the common problems when you're caught for speeding? Is that team member wise?
Yes. So I was going to say too many rooftops for the team that you have that's sufficient. So they're not built for that size or that platform. They're not built for going from 100 employees in several locations to 500 employees amongst 2 or 3 geographies. That is, multi-unit leadership is very different leadership than single leadership, right?
Yeah.
You can't take a GM and say, Chris, sure, you're a GM that's amazing. Now I'm going to make you a super GM over 7 stores. A lot of times those people fail, but they were amazing in 1 store. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is people. They just don't have the right people and the foundation in place to go to that next level. The other one is they're not capitalized right. It's like, I'm going to take some money from Chris. I'm going to take money from 5 or 6 or others. I'm going to make commitments to all of them different. And then you open up stores, it doesn't perform as well as you think. Then you can't meet your obligations to Chris and everybody. Then they all get upset and then everybody's fighting. So a lot of times we watch it and say, that was financed incorrectly. Mm-hmm. And there was not enough financial oversight there. And you took a great business and you screwed it up. Keeping things simple and clean is probably the best, and growing at a pace that you can afford and that you can support with your team. Those are the 2 things that you caught for speeding.
Interesting. If you had one piece of advice for somebody that's young in their career that's getting started, whether they're a retailer, broker, developer, what would you recommend?
I know exactly what I would recommend because I say it to my son that's 25 right now, that's going to college, is married. Perfect. And we have these conversations often. And he says the things that he's hearing from his friends that are that age too. And I just keep trying to reiterate to him and all of his friends and all brand new entrepreneurs the same thing, and that is, don't try and skip steps. There is a purpose that we all have to go through this life's journey on learning every part of the process. That if you jump from step 2 to step 9, all the things you're going to learn in between that right there are crucial for your success later in your career. So skipping steps, I think, it's a problem. It's an epidemic we have to deal with right now with the younger generation, because all of this generation is looking side to side. Mm-hmm. Gosh dang it, Chris has got a cool truck. He's got a nice new house and a boat. What's he doing that I'm not doing? So then you start trying to skip steps to catch up to Chris. When what you don't realize is maybe Chris skipped some steps, and maybe that's all a facade, and maybe a year from now he loses it all because he over-levered himself. I'm not trying to pick on you if that's what you did. I'm just kidding.
I hope not.
No, I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying though, is like
Yes.
the younger generation, they're thinking that it's about stuff today. It's about
Everybody
winning
wants-
today.
everybody
Everybody
wants
wants
it
it now.
Sure.
And I just think that for me, I feel like parts of my career, Chris, I was like, I'm going to go fast. And then I went fast because I like going fast.
Sure.
But I went fast and I'm like, damn it. I should have probably slowed down and learned this a little better, taken my time on this one because I made some mistakes. And now later in my career, I'm 50 now. I've owned several businesses. We own several businesses now. I've been an entrepreneur my whole career. And I think, man, if I was to go back and do it again, what would I tell myself? And that would be, Andrew, don't skip steps and slow down. Learn it all when you're in your 20s. Then really do some of your best work in your 30s. And then in your 40s, that's when you're going to have enough experience where you're going to think methodically and lean on your experiences to make really good decisions then for your retirement. But you don't have to be at retirement by the age of 28, right?
Yeah.
Take your time and learn as much as you can. Don't skip steps.
But I got to tell you, that response from somebody responsible for opening 75 restaurants this year is not what you would think. But
Yeah.
if you take it into consideration, there's a team of 75
Yeah.
on top of each individual concept having their own executive leadership team. Right?
That's right.
That's a big crew.
Well, and it's also, if you break that down too, Chris, I could go through every single brand and say, okay, well, this brand's going to add 3.
Yes.
I mean, could we do 6 or 8? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we have the money to do it. Do we have the team to do it? Not yet. We're not ready for that. How are our existing rooftops performing? Well, these 4 are doing way good. These 2 are doing good, and this one's not doing so good. So let's not build another one, and let's focus on the one that's not doing as good to get that one up, because that coming up in sales and profits will be better than adding another rooftop, complicating our job here.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Don't skip steps just because I can. I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
When you aggregate all of those brands together, there's a lot of restaurants, but each individual one we're thinking about, should we pause and perfect, or do we just add? Because you know this, you're in this industry with me. There are a lot of brands you're like, slow down.
Yes.
Because I just went in your store the other day in this city, and it was not the experience in this heritage market because you don't have good management.
Yep.
The product coming out was crap. Why are you growing so fast?
And the U.S. consumer generally isn't that forgiving.
No,
Right.
I would say worse now than ever, right, Chris? Like they,
It's interesting that the market shares increase as much as you just were pointing to the data set. But then at the same time, yes, like the sentiment has actually probably narrowed.
it's narrowed, and I would say everybody's a food critic.
Yep.
Everybody has outlets where they can go and complain, and then it goes viral. So for us, our most important job is the actual single person ordering from you at your cash register or in the car in the drive-thru. That is your most important job, that one person. And then the next person walks in. Now that person is the most important person. That's all that matters.
I couldn't believe how quickly it turned when people were going through the Chipotle line and videoing it and then putting it on TikTok.
Yeah.
Talking about how
Craziness.
it was just wild.
Wild.
And you're like, just have some patience here with these brands, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's just trying to run a business, right? And just because you can put something out there doesn't mean you should just immediately spread everything.
That's
like
right.
that.
And I would say that probably just to your listeners from the agent side and even the landlords, just because they can, look at brands and say, should they?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the brand through those eyes, those goggles, don't think about it as getting a deal done. Because you and I both know, I've owned real estate, you own real estate. When you have a building, it's not good to have this revolving door. Something opens, then goes dark, and then opens, and then goes dark. Because when I step up there and I go, well, how many brands have been there? And you say there's been 4 in the last 3 years. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
So getting it back is very expensive for us as landlords. You don't want to do that. You want a long-term partnership and relationship. Your questions you should be asking them is, how's your team? How is the performance of all your other stores? How's your ability to come into a new market if you're the new market? Have you done it before? Do you have someone on your team that's expanded into new markets before? Those are the questions you should be asking, not let's get this deal with Bettahs because they're coming in hot and I've heard about them. That's not enough. You should find out that Rob Ertman's the CEO and is a freaking stellar CEO, and he's run hundreds and hundreds of restaurants before in multiple geographies, and that Bettahs stores, all of them are profitable. You should know those answers to those questions before you say, yeah, come right into my center. right?
Yeah.
If you just let them open because they're hot right now, hot in the eyes of the beholder does not mean they're actually hot as an organization. Make sure that they're actually a strong, well-financed, well-capitalized brand. If not, it's going to go dark and you're going to get it back.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help any of us.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's a great thought. Well, Andrew, we appreciate you coming on the Dirt Talk Pod. We appreciate you spending some time with us.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.